Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports here live on this Sunday morning, ready to talk college football's top teams on both sides of the ball. Us here at WTP Sports, we got together and we talked about some of the teams that we felt like would have top 10 defenses on both sides of the ball on offense and defense. There are quite a few teams that we came up with, 8 teams to be exact. You got 3 teams out of the Big Ten. You got Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. We expect for all 3 of those teams to have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. And then you move over to the SEC. And there were 3 teams we came up with there as well. We feel like Texas, Georgia, and LSU can all have top 10 defenses. And then you go to the ACC, where they have their independent member, Notre Dame. We feel like Notre Dame will have a top 10 offense and defense. And then last but not least, the Miami Hurricanes. We feel like they will have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. If you're in the chat, let us know of any other teams that you think can have a chance to have a top 10 offense and defense this year. I just named 8 that we came up with here at WTP Sports Dudes. Tell us who you think might be one of those teams. Because I'm telling you now, when you look at scheduling and you look at those 8 teams, quite a few of them play each other during the regular season. And we got those questions in the chat for us to tackle. Thank you for joining us this morning. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. You'll see all of the channels scrolling across the bottom from those who are here at WTP Sports. Please check them out. Thank you, Wiz, for being in here this morning. We truly appreciate you for being one of our number 1 supporters every time we go live. We truly appreciate you. And yes, your Notre Dame Fighting Irish is one of those teams who is ultra scary this season, who has a chance to go on to win the national championship when it's all said and done. When you look at that roster they have on offense and defense, those guys are loaded. Let's go into our chat and talk about some of these questions that we already have out there in the chat for us to discuss today. We got our man, SEC Sean. He's in the chat as well. He said, let's go, Rob. Sorry, I'm driving back today. I know you driving back, bro. Be safe. Enjoy them goodies that you usually stop and get on your way home. And I know you will be super excited. We also got Georgia is spelled Opolis 1410 is in the chat. I hope that he's a Georgia fan because I'm getting ready to talk about Georgia right now. Let's look at this question we have about the teams that we thought would have top 10 offenses and defenses here this year in college football. Georgia being one of them. We know for sure they're going to have a top 10 defense because Kirby Smart and those boys are going to be off the chain, but we feel like Gunnar Stockton is going to turn the corner, and they're going to have a really good run game, a really good tight end group, and they're going to be a team that can have a top 10 offense as well. It says Georgia is the only team on the list that doesn't play at least one of these teams that we have on our list. How would Georgia fare, in your opinion, if they played all of them, if they played them all? Listen. They've already beaten Texas 3 straight times. So I could definitely see them beating Texas. So that's one win. I think they can beat LSU because LSU hasn't had their number in quite a while. And then when you look over into the Big Ten, there's some tough teams there. You got Indiana, you got Oregon, you got Ohio State. How would they fare against those teams? I think they might go 2-1 or 1-2 against those 2 teams. I don't think that they will lose all 3, and I don't think that they will win all 3. But then when you look at Miami and you look at Notre Dame, how will they fare against those teams? and it will probably depend on where that game is played. If they're playing it in Georgia at their stadium, um, maybe they might be able to get a win. But if they had to travel to South Bend or they had to travel to Miami to play there in the Orange Bowl, it might not fare so well. So I can see Georgia out of these 7 teams possibly going 4-3, 3-4. If I was somebody who had to predict that. Let's bring our man T1 into this discussion. T1, how you feeling this morning?
Feeling great, feeling great, feeling great. How you doing, big bro?
I'm doing good, bro. Appreciate you joining us. We were talking about teams that we felt like would have a top 10 offense and top 10 defense. And we came up with, out of the Big Ten, we came up with Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. Out of the SEC, we came up with Texas, Georgia, LSU, and then in the ACC, we have Miami, and then, of course, the independent Notre Dame. What's your thoughts on those 8 teams and the talent they have on their rosters and the possibility that they will all have a top 10 offense and defense?
Those are 9 pretty good teams, man. And I'd say that there's a great chance for all of them to be in the top 10 for both the offense and defense. I'm just excited to see it get started, man. And I think all of those teams are definitely. I feel like all of those teams are most likely definitely make the playoffs this year. So, man, I think there's a great chance for all of them to be in the top 10. I don't even know if there's one that I would possibly be able to take up out of there. I think those are four 9 good teams to put your money on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I think all of them have an opportunity to definitely make it to the college football playoffs. And once you get there, you can make a nice little run. Let me ask you this. Georgia is the only team out of those 8 teams that I named that do not play one of the teams that is on the list. Everybody else plays at least one. How do you think Georgia will fare against an Ohio State, against an Indiana, a Oregon, a Miami, a Texas, a LSU, or a Notre Dame if they were to face them? And for me, it depended on if it was on the road or if it was at home or how the outcome would be. What is your thoughts on Georgia against those other 7 teams?
Yeah, I don't, as highly as they talk about the SEC, man, I'm not sure if Georgia will be prepared for those teams because all of those teams have some pretty nice schedules, and I understand that Georgia plays in the SEC, and they're gonna act like Georgia, has a dog fight every single week. But if they don't have any of those 8 teams on that schedule to give them that, that top 5, top 10 offensive and defensive battle, I mean, you need those type of games to prepare you for when you get into a dogfight. I think it could hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It will be very, very tough because I'm not sure. I know Georgia's going to have a really good run game, and their tight end pass game is going to be good. I don't know who they're going to get to replace those receivers that they had last year. At least the one that went on to the NFL. So if Georgia can do that, we know they're going to be good defensively and they can stop some people. But if they got to go on the road and play some of these teams, I think that the outcome would be less than 500. But if they get to play at home, 4 out of the 4 out of the 7, then I think they could be over 500.
Yeah, but let's say this too: if any team can do it, pull off something like that, it could be a team like Georgia. Georgia could have that schedule where they, possibly staying healthy, not having no like big major bangers, but a team like Georgia could go in there and still pop a Notre Dame or LSU or somebody. So if anybody could do it, Georgia can.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Let's go to our next question that we got on the docket. It says Miami travels to South Bend to face Notre Dame. Will the winner go undefeated if they're undefeated when they meet? What's your thoughts on that one? These two teams meet in South Bend this year on Notre Dame's home turf. We know how good of a game it was last year. Went right down to the wire. I think Miami won by 3. This year they got to go to South Bend. If both of those teams are undefeated, and whoever wins this game, do you think they go undefeated during the regular season?
If it's Miami, very, very high possibility. If it's Notre Dame, they always have a tough schedule. So I don't know if that game catapults them to a undefeated season and puts them on that path because Notre Dame has a tough schedule. Notre Dame always has you know always have at least 3 bangers on there to where you don't know that they're going to go in there and win that game. So I think Miami possibly could, and I don't feel so great about Notre Dame running the table if they were to beat Miami at home.
Yeah, SEC Sean has said he think the winner, if they're undefeated at that time, will both the winner will go undefeated. I think whoever wins that game will go undefeated too. Even though Notre Dame still will have to play SMU, which is a really good team on their schedule. I think Miami, to your point, has an easier road after Notre Dame and before Notre Dame than Notre Dame has after or before Miami. So I agree with you on that, but I think they both. If they're undefeated at that point, the winner will go undefeated. SEC Sean also said, be undefeated if Notre Dame, yes, their schedule is weak depending when Miami plays SMU. Also, both of them, I guess, play SMU this year, so maybe it's pretty even there. But I like both of those teams to make it to the college football playoffs. Do you see both of them as college football playoff teams?
I do. I see both of them as I see both of them in there for sure. And I don't see Notre Dame missing out 2 years in a row.
Yeah, me neither, especially when they were right on the brink of making it last year. Many people thought they should. I think both of them are, unless barring some major injuries, we always got to factor that in. But if they don't have any major injuries, I think both of those are playoff teams. In fact, I think all 8 of these teams that we named are probably good candidates to make it to the college football playoffs.
Right. And I think too, like even if Notre Dame was to, lose that game to Miami and even possibly lose another one and they possibly right there on the brink of getting in there again, I don't think that they leave Notre Dame out twice if they're right there at the doorstep of that college football playoff.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that as well. I don't think they want the same kind of pressure that was put on them. The committee that was put on them when Notre Dame was left out last year. I don't think they're going to go through that again. If you had to give a score prediction of this Miami and this Notre Dame game right now, what would you think that score prediction would be? What would you give it?
I'm not going with a high scoring banger. I know that much. I'm looking at maybe like a 20-17, 21-17, even a 1.18-17 game or something with a winning field goal to win it. I'm looking at it definitely like under 40, So I think it'll be a low scoring game.
I'm right there with you too, T1. I feel like both of these teams got some really, really good defenses, and I don't think they're going to give up a whole lot of points. I think it's going to be one of those games where they're going to have to really put together a drive or two to even score any points, really. So I agree with you. I think it's going to be maybe a 21-17, a 20-17, a 20-18. Something like that in that range. If somebody gets to 24, they're probably going to be the winner.
Yeah.
First one to 24 wins, in my opinion. But I agree with you. It's going to be it's not going to be a high scoring banger. I don't think so.
Agree.
Our next question is the Big Ten and SEC have 3 teams on our list apiece. Which 3 is the best on paper? Once again, we had in the Big Ten, we got Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. In the SEC, you got Texas, Georgia, LSU. On paper, which 3 teams are the best from which conference?
Man, I'd like to easily give it to my Big Ten, but I'm gonna take Moss B's way out. I just think I think it's an even match. I can't go either way. I can't go either way. Although I could, but I can't. I'm gonna put that baby right down the middle and say those top 3 teams are very, very equal. Very, very equally matched, very, very powerful on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So I'm gonna have to give it a tie.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you on the push, but man, when I think about what Oregon has and what Ohio State has and what Indiana's coach Signetti can do with the players he has, I'm giving it to the Big Ten, man. I feel like Texas is really, really good offensively and defensively, and they have some names. We know Georgia's going to be good defensively. We know LSU is going to be good, probably better than they've been offensively. But when you look at Indiana, you know offensively and defensively, they're going to be unbelievable. Then you look at Ohio State, you already know they're going to be unbelievable, man. And then you look at Oregon and all the players who decided to come back, much like Ohio State's defense did a few years ago when they won the national title. Oregon has all of those guys coming back. Now, of course, it all depends on health, but we're talking about on paper. I'm going to give this edge to the Big Ten. No matter how slight it is, I think the Big Ten probably has the best 3 teams, other 6 that we have from those 2 conferences. Because I think that Big Ten, I think it is super, super loaded. Super loaded.
Yeah, but Rob, you know me, man, and I took off my Homer hat because 9 times out of 10, I'm going Big Ten it, and you know that. But I kind of took off my Homer hat just for a hot little second because I'm still a person who I have issues trusting things. So, and as well as Indiana appears to be on paper, I'm off of one season. I'm not all the way sold on Indiana, and I know that may sound surprising, and especially what Coach brought in again for this season, which what you said was on paper. You like on paper, and Indiana, yes, they look good on paper, but now everybody gonna come after them. You know what I mean? Indiana kind of like snuck up on everybody with this. They snuck in there and got a natty on the soul. We gonna have to see if Sid can keep this train rolling and keep Indiana at a high level. I'm gonna have to see him do it at one more again before I just say, okay, Indiana is gonna year in and year out be one of those top 5 teams in the country. So, and then Oregon is, I think Oregon is Oregon. Oregon can have a great regular season, and then they could get into the college football playoffs and not do too much damage. So, I'm like I say, I took my hat off a little bit, and I treated Oregon and Indiana like they are not as consistent as Ohio State. Ohio State is consistently winning 10 games at least a year. So, um, and so is Oregon, but Oregon is consistently getting to the playoffs and not making no noise. So, that's why I split that baby down the middle. And I still a little bit, know what those top SEC teams can do. And they can get into the playoffs and win some games. So, and it seems like it's about time for Texas to do that. And LSU, they didn't revamped over there, and they're trying to make their Indiana type run with their new coach. So, that's why I said I'm gonna split it down the middle, because those are 6 great things.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Thanks, Tim. 188. Thank you for joining us again. We truly appreciate you joining us every time we go live here at WTP Sports. We truly appreciate you. Let me get you, because you mentioned Cincinnati. I want to get your thoughts on this, because we talked about it yesterday. And I made the statement that I don't think, outside of Cincinnati going to the NFL, that he will go anywhere else in college. But then post game threw out, maybe he would go to Alabama. Do you think Alabama will be the only school that he would leave Indiana for?
No, I think he would. I think he would possibly go to uh, another high profile university with a great football system. But we know it's always going to be about that money. So if somebody throws him out, just a huge bag, and it's one of those, top ACC teams, or you know even the Notre Dame. So yes, I could see him leaving Indiana. That's what happens in college football, college basketball now. You never know where anybody can end up, whether that be a player or a coach. Nobody is safe now. So yes, I definitely could see him anywhere that's going to give him that bag and give him the opportunity to put a team together to compete for a national championship.
Yeah, I think it's gotten a little easier for him to get people to come to Indiana, but I don't know about from the high school ranks yet. Now he's been able to get some really good transfer portal players to come to Indiana because of what they've seen Indiana do. But I don't know if Indiana is a destination for some of the great high school players, even though they did get the number one or number two wide receiver coming out of high school next year. I don't know if they're able to do that. And you're exactly right. At a more prominent college team in football, maybe they could lower him out with that bag. So that is a really strong possibility. Let's go to
Hey,
our
it's
next.
all about, real quick though, but just now it's just all about the money. Like if Indiana is going to spend a bag for players to come to Indiana, they're going to continue to come, because Indiana hasn't been a school where people were just freely going to play football. And he is getting these young men to come to Indiana, which just within itself is unbelievable. To think now we're in 2026 and players want to go to Indiana to play football. Not basketball. That's why
Yeah,
money rules.
yeah. Time 18188. I thought the same thing. I felt like only place Signetti would go to the NFL. And I believe you're saying the same thing. I would love to see him at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Pittsburgh Steelers fans would love to see him there too, especially the way he has such a attention to detail and how disciplined he is. That's the kind of organization the Pittsburgh Steelers are as well. So I could definitely see him going to the NFL. But post game, he feels like he don't think that Signetti has any interest in the NFL. So, I mean, I guess we just got conflicting thoughts on that when it comes to Kurt Cincinnati and possibly going to another college team or going to the NFL, because I really feel like somebody could throw him the bag and maybe lower him away from Indiana. But Indiana is one of those schools right now that's saying, listen, whatever the bag is, we got it too. We will give it to you. So maybe he stays put.
I don't feel like, I don't think that he'll be as successful in the NFL now. I
Yeah,
think that he would go and and be right back in college within a few years. He's successful now because of the way that the college football landscape is now and the things that these universities are able to do to put together a really, really nice team. You don't have that in the NFL. You don't have the luxury of putting together a power team because you have more money or because you have enough money to do that. He's See, a lot of these college coaches need to stay in college. Like it's known that your college coaches aren't going to the NFL and lighting it up like the players are. So I think he should stay put. And if he does go anywhere, he better stay in college.
Yeah, I think SEC Sean doesn't think he has the person. Well, he doesn't have a personality fit for the NFL, and that could possibly be true. Um, I mean, we'll have to wait and see on that. Maybe that's something that happens down the road. But I want to talk to real quick to Penn State Sports Talk 24/7. Yesterday we did our Big Ten preseason preview, and we brought Penn State in at number 7. And we are really high on Matt Campbell, the players he brought in, Rocco Beck, and everything that we know that Matt Campbell can do. Because I believe his style of play fits the Big Ten perfectly. I think that's what he wants to do. And he gave my Texas Longhorns fits when he was at Iowa State. And I think in a couple of years, we're really going to see Matt Campbell bring Penn State back to prominence. I know we had him at 7 behind the likes of Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Michigan, USC, Iowa. But I think that they could definitely get into that top 5. For one, they got the schedule to be able to do it. And for two, I think whenever you got a quarterback like Rocco Beck, who is a freaking gamer, that guy can play some football at this level. I think they're going to have an opportunity to be really good. And their schedule is so nice for them to go at least 10-2, 11-1, that we could possibly be talking about this Penn State team being higher ranked than what we had them at 7 in the preseason. So thank you for that question and those comments. We really truly appreciate that. Let's go to our next question that we had in the chat, and then we'll get to some more that we have from other people that are in the chat. It says, Texas being one of the schools that we had that we believe will have a top 10 offense and defense, will face Ohio State at home and LSU on the road. How important is it for Texas not to go 0-2, because their chances of making the college football playoffs will be kind of jacked up? Maybe I need to read that question again. Texas will face Ohio State at home and LSU on the road. How important is it that Texas doesn't go 0-2 for their college football playoff hopes? T1, how important is it that Texas does not go 0-2 in those 2 games?
It's very important. Those are their top 2 games. So they don't want to go 0-2. If they go 0-2, they don't say Texas that they aren't ready for the big boys. So they have to win one of those games. They have to. But I will say this as well. If they were to drop those 2 games and win the remaining 10, they're in the college football playoffs, and those games didn't hurt them. They just built them up and got them ready for the college football playoffs. So although they have to win one of those games, if they don't, but they go undefeated, they're okay at 10-2. So, and if they drop a third one, and go 9-3, I don't know. The question could be, could a 9-3 team pop up in these playoffs with a crazy schedule? But I think that they have to win one of those games. But like I said, if they lose both of them and go undefeated, they're good. And I guess we could say like last year, if you lose a third, they lose both of them and lose a third when they're out the playoffs. So they do have to win one of those games.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they got to go at least 1-2. I mean, 1-1 in these two games, simply because if they lose to Ohio State in week 2, they don't get LSU until week 10. But they got to beat LSU if they lose to Ohio State. And if they beat Ohio State, then they got a little bit of wiggle room against LSU if they are still undefeated at that point. The thing that concerns me about this whole Texas schedule is the fact that they have a really tough schedule. Them and Ohio State, they have two of the toughest schedules in college football this year. But Texas, they got an 8-game gauntlet where they get no buys in the SEC. And that's going to be really, really tough for Texas to navigate, especially when you got to go to LSU, you got to go to Tennessee. You already going to have your game against Oklahoma, which is a rivalry game. And then you finish the season. Just imagine if they are 9-2 at that point, and they play Texas A&M at Texas A&M in the last game of the season. They could easily end up 9-3 on the outside looking in like they were last year with those 3 losses. Even though a loss to Ohio State, LSU, and Texas A&M will be better than that loss that they had against Florida, I still don't think that the committee is ready to put a 9-3 team in unless the landscape in that top 12 has some other 9-3 teams in it. And we'll just have to wait and see on that. But that I definitely believe they got to win one of those 2 games. Otherwise, they're going to put themselves in a really bad predicament, in my opinion. Let's check the chat real quick and see what we got going on out there. SEC Sean said, let me go up a little bit more.
I'm just gonna say that's one hell of a schedule, man.
That is one tough schedule.
That's why I'm excited about this college football season, man. I think it's gonna be one of the best ever.
Yeah, I agree. SEC Sean, Penn State not quite ready to have a top 10 offense and defense this year, but they're going to be on the rise. I really like Matt Campbell. And you said, it's term of our last question, it's huge not to go 0-2. They still got Ole Miss, OU, A&M. I mean, they got a really tough schedule, man. And I think it's going to be really, really tough. But I think there's somebody that we got on our list that has a slightly tougher schedule than Texas, and we're going to get to them here in a little bit. But right now, let's go to our next question that we had in our chat. It says, Indiana and Oregon face Ohio State. Which one, if either, can afford to lose that game? We got Indiana, we got Oregon. They both face Ohio State. Can either one of them afford to lose that game, Indiana or Oregon, in your opinion, T1?
You saying, can Indiana afford to lose against Ohio State? Yeah, Indiana and Oregon can both afford to lose to Ohio State. Ohio State can't afford to lose to Indiana and go back-to-back losses to Indiana for the first time in program history. So that's a huge game, and that's something that people not even thinking about. But Ohio State has to beat Indiana. I know that much. But Indiana or Oregon can afford to lose to Ohio State. 10-2 will get you into that college football playoff.
Yeah, I feel like either one of them could possibly afford to lose to Ohio State. Oregon has, I think, a tougher schedule than Indiana does. They still will have to they still have to play USC, Washington, and I think UCLA. and they might even have Michigan or somebody like that on their schedule. Of course, Oregon and Indiana, they don't play each other, so that bodes well for those two. But I think they both can afford to lose to Ohio State and still be right in the thick of things, simply because they don't have the kind of schedule that Ohio State has in front of them, um, or around them or behind them. Ohio State has a really, really tough football schedule this year, but they're one of the best teams in the country year in and year out. And we're going to get to see them navigate that schedule. College football this year is going to be unbelievable, man. It's going to be unbelievable. Let's go see what we got down in the comments before we go to our next question. Let's see what our chat has to say so far. Our man SEC Sean says, I think Oregon can more than Indiana. I'm probably on the other side of that SEC, Sean. I probably feel like Indiana could lose to Ohio State more than Oregon, because I think Indiana has a slightly less tougher schedule than Oregon. I think Oregon might play a couple of more of those better teams in the Big Ten than Indiana. So I'm right on the other side. But you know what? You probably got the schedule board up in front of you, and you probably comparing all those notes. So you might be right, SEC Sean. You might be right. Let's go to our next question. It says, Ohio State plays 3 other teams on our list. We got 8 teams on our list, and Ohio State plays 3 of them. They play Oregon, they play Indiana, and they play Texas. They got to travel to Austin, and they got to travel to Bloomington to play Indiana, and Austin to play Texas. They get Oregon at home. Ohio State, will they go 3-0, 2-1, 1-2, or 0-3? What's your answer, T1? Them is your boys now. Them is your boys.
3-0, baby. 3-0. I'm like you said, this college football season is going to be exciting, and I can't wait to see my hungry Buckeyes get out there and do what they do against these top teams, man. I got 3-0. I'm not even thinking of a possibility of a 2-1 or a 1-2. I got a flat out 3-0, and I'm sorry to say this, big bro, but we're gonna go down there to Texas, and we're gonna do what we do best, and that's win and silence some home fans out there. I'm 3-0, bro. I'm 3-0. I don't see nobody popping us.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, if Ohio State goes 3-0 against those 3 teams, they will have to be crowned as the best team in college football at that point anyway, because those are going to be, you got to travel to Indiana and to Austin. Austin week 2, man, I'm telling you right now, if they go 3-0, yeah, you're going to have to say that they're the best team in the country at that point. But I definitely need them to go to at least 2-1, and that one loss got to be to my Longhorns. We have got to win this game, man. Listen, if you think about it, he's 0-2, Steve Sarkisian, that is, against Ryan Day. He got to get that win, man. That's one of the clouds that's hanging over Steve Sarkisian's head. He hasn't been able to beat Ryan Day, and, of course, he's 0-3 against Kirby Smart. He got to get wins against those kind of coaches who are always at the top of college football. And, of course, he's 0-1 against Kellen DeBoer, too, at Alabama now, but when he was at Washington. No, matter of fact, he's 0-2 against Kellen DeBoer because he lost 2 years in a row in bowl games to Washington. So listen, man, he has got to beat Ohio State in week 2. Otherwise, I don't know what that does to the morale of those players at Texas if they lose to Ohio State for a 3rd straight time. And then when you think about Ohio State, if they go 3-0, they are going to be riding high. The thing I think I love about Ohio State, is the fact that I know that they believe that they underachieved last year. I believe they had the best team in college football last year, and they didn't win at all. They end up losing their last two games. And I think they're going to have a serious ultra focus this year, and they could possibly go 3-0 because they're going to be so in tune with what their coaches are saying, so in tune with the details and all of that, that they're going to be really tough to beat. But I believe Ohio State has the toughest schedule in college football this year. If you go look at that thing, and we already named three teams that we believe will have top 10 offenses and top 10 three defenses that they have to play. Now, of course, Ohio State is a team with a top 10 offense and defense too. But when you look at the rest of their schedule, they still got to play Michigan, which is a rivalry game, and we know how that thing can be. And I think they got another really tough game on their schedule too. Maybe it's Iowa or somebody like that. But I think
Iowa,
they have the toughest
Illinois,
schedule. Illinois,
Iowa,
they got the
Illinois,
toughest schedule.
Iowa, and Illinois are some. There's some. They're not just walkover Big Ten teams that you just gonna walk over.
Yeah, I agree. They might even play somebody else on the West Coast, maybe a UCLA or somebody like that. And I think UCLA came in at 10 on our list in our preseason rankings for the Big Ten. But I think Ohio State has the toughest schedule in college football, and I think Texas is probably a close second. But both of them got some really tough schedules this year, and it's going to make college football so freaking exciting week in and week out.
Hey, but the history with the last time we had the home and home with Texas, we split them. So, you know, there's a possibility that Texas could get us at home, and so that's definitely going to be probably one of the games of the year in just week 2. So, that's definitely all eyes are going to be on Austin week 2 of that college football season, and Austin Texas needs that victory against Ohio State. They need that victory against Ohio State, just like Ohio State needs that victory when we play Indiana again. We cannot drop 2 straight against Indiana. That goes against everything that our program stands for.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That was a really good take right there, T1. Let's go to the last question that we had in the chat that we had from last night. But we'll go through the chat and see if there's any more statements or questions out there. Which of these 8 teams has the toughest road to try and make it to the college football playoffs? Those teams again are Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, LSU, Texas, Notre Dame, and Miami. Of those 8 teams, who do you think has the toughest road to try and make it to the college football playoffs?
I think Ohio State and Texas, man. I think those teams, although all of those teams, they're going to have to fight. Nobody on there has an easy route to an undefeated season. Everybody on that list is going to have to fight for that undefeated season if they want that, or even that one loss. I could possibly see everybody on there with one loss. I could see there not being an undefeated team this year, or if it is, it's only maybe 1 or 2 of them because we have so many competitive teams and we're going to have some bangers out here. But I got to go with Ohio State and Texas. I think they have the hardest road to an undefeated season.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ohio State has the toughest road simply because of the schedule that they have. They have a really, really tough schedule, but man, they are a really, really good football team. But I think week in and week out, Ohio State is going to have the opportunity to really play against some really good opponents, which is really going to help them going into the college football playoffs. So if they navigate it to where they make it to the college football playoffs, they're probably going to be the best prepared team to make a run in the college football playoffs, in my opinion, based on their schedule. And I feel like Texas is a really close second to being the same way because of the strength of their schedule too, especially once you get past Oklahoma. They got a stretch of, well, I think Oklahoma is one of the games because their bye is right before the Oklahoma game. They got 8 straight SEC games that they got to play. I think 3 of them are on the road and 4 of them are at home. No, 5 of them are at home and 3 of them are on the road. And that's going to be really, really, really tough to navigate, man. And they got to go to A&M. They got to go to Missouri, and they got to go to LSU. That they still play Ole Miss. So I think they got a really tough schedule now. Of course, they play Arkansas, but Arkansas, we had them coming in last in the SEC preseason ranking. So I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, even though that's a semi-rival game. I just feel like those two teams really had the toughest schedule out there. Oregon may have a close third because I think they got to play all of the West Coast schools and then they got to play against Ohio State. So it's going to be tough, but you're exactly right. All of them have a slate that they got to run that's going to be really tough. It's going to prepare them for the college football playoffs. But I just feel like Texas and Ohio State will probably be the most prepared if they make it to the college football playoffs because of the slate they have to run. I just hope all of these teams stay healthy and are able to put the product out there on the field that we all, as college football fans, are looking forward to seeing. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up for today?
Nah, I'm just going to piggyback off what you just said, and I pray that college football has one of the healthiest seasons that they've had in a long time. I don't want to see any of these high profile athletes, going out in week 2, week 3 of the season and, kind of destroying the hopes of these teams, college football playoff bids and hopes. So I just pray that we have a healthy season because I think this college football season is going to be bananas. And we do know and understand that injuries are a part of the game, and that's when other players get their opportunity to shine and put their name on a map. So I still would like for a healthy season, but we know this is college football, and you have injuries, and you have those next in line players who you don't know, like who will pop out on the scene this year that nobody's talked about. Nobody knows. They might be number 2 on the depth chart or number 3 on the depth chart. That's the one interesting thing about college football. You have injuries and somebody gets to step in and gets to have an opportunity to become a household name. So I hope everybody can stay healthy, which I know it's just that's not a part of football. But I just hope and pray that these young men can stay healthy. We can actually get one of the best college football seasons that we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, I agree. And SEC Sean made a really good, it's a really good point right here. He was saying that Ohio State and Texas will be the best prepared, but they also might be the most beat up down that stretch because of those grueling games that they have to play. And to your point, we want these guys to be healthy, but we know it's football, and there's going to be some injuries that may not keep people out of games, but everybody's going to be banged up. You can't go through a whole entire 12 game stretch with playing against the physical teams that you're going to play and not be a little banged up. We just hope that nobody suffers any season ending injuries so that we can get the best college football possible out there. I think this college football season is loaded with some incredible football players. If you look at the quarterback room, the running back room, the wide receiver rooms, the tight end rooms, offensive line, defensive tackles, defensive ends, linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, even special teams guys, man, we're looking at some of the best freaking talent that I've seen in a long time. And it's always been great talent. But this year in particular seems like it is just overflowing with talent all over the place. And I'm anxious to see this college football season. Please continue to tune in to WTP Sports. We're going to be back again on Tuesday at 7:45, then again on Wednesday at 7:45, then again on Thursday at 7:45, then again on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., and again Sunday at 9 a.m. So please hit the like button, subscribe to all the channels you see scrolling across the bottom. Check us out on Patreon and Spotify at WTP Sports Dudes 2026. And also go check out our website, WTPSportsDudes.com. We will see you again on Tuesday. Make sure
I'm gonna say something. I got one more thing. Off of what we were just talking about before we hop up out of here. And that's another great thing about this NIL era. And if you do plan on going to that college football playoff, and because we do have it now where I don't care what your schedule is, you're going to have some bangers. You can be beat up at the end of this season, but this NIL has made it to where you better be 3 deep. You know, back in it before this NIL thing, it was only 2 deep. If you was third string, you probably wasn't touching the field. Now that third string player is on the field. Why? Because we got to make sure that we're keeping our players fresh, because now you're going to have to play 16 games if you get to that final game. You could possibly be playing 16 games. So you're going to have to try to keep those players as fresh as you can for as long as you can. And that third player on a depth chart, they have to be ready and available to play right now. And not just because of injury, but just because we need to make sure that we can keep those players fresh. So you need to have a deep, talented roster. You can't just throw a third stringer out there just to give somebody a breather, because you'll get popped in that one play because you got that third stringer out there that's not ready. So even the third string now has to be playing a first team caliber football if you want your team to go deep into this college football season and make that playoff and go deep, make a deep run into the playoff. So now the third string players have become even more important to these universities making the run out here.
Oh, I totally agree with that. That's a really, really good take right there. And on Tuesday, we're going to be doing the top 10 linebacker show. Please, if you want to submit a list of your top 10 linebackers, I put the email in the chat, WTPSportsDudes@gmail.com. Send us your top 10 linebackers list, and we're going to put it in comparison with ours, calculate it all up, and then come up with our top 10 list based on everybody's entries. So please do that for us. We're out of here for today. We appreciate you. T1, take us out.
Y'all know the drill, man. We was in the building. Now we up out of here. WTP Sports Dude. Peace. Love you, big bruh.
Love you too, bro.